Okie dokie. This is gonna be probably an hour, at least an hour, maybe two of recording. It's just gonna be a bunch of random bedtime stories, but I don't know. Let's see. Let's start with the bedtime stories. We'll start with these. We'll do ones that I've already read before, and then we'll do new ones. So, God, I hate that. I hate that when I talk, my tongue clicks. It's annoying. I don't know. Okay. The sound of dandelions. Why does my... Lena never liked noise. Even as a child, she'd run away from fireworks and cover her ears when bus passed by too fast. Silence was her sanctuary. Until Julian moved in. Julian was a musician, not the quiet kind who played acoustic guitar in coffee shops, but the loud, chaotic type. Drums, electric guitar, and even the occasional trumpet. His music bled through Lena's walls like light through thin curtains. At first, she hated it. She wrote polite notes, then firmer ones, then no notes at all, just cold stares across the hedge. He always smiled back, though. One day, his music stopped. 2 days passed, 3. On the 4th day, curiosity got the best of her. She knocked down his door, heart pounding like one of his drums. When he opened it, he looked tired, pale, different. "Hey," he said softly. "Sorry about the noise. I've been taking care of my mom." She blinked. Oh. They stood there awkwardly. "Would you like some tea?" he asked. She almost said no, almost, but something in his eyes, something exhausted, warm, and genuine, made her say yes. That cup of tea turned into 3. That afternoon turned into evening. She learned he used music to process emotions too big for words. He learned she used silence to protect hers. They didn't fall in love quickly. It came quietly, like spring rain, slow, soft, and steady. She started leaving her windows open when he practiced. He started learning songs on piano, just for her, gentle ones. And one summer evening, while lying on a blanket surrounded by dandelions, he asked her if the sound of his life, his music, her laughter, and the rustle of the world was too loud. She smiled and whispered, "Only if you're not in it." Part 2, The Echo of Autumn. As the months slipped by, Lena and Julian built a rhythm all on their own. Not a noisy one, but not a silent one. A harmony. She started attending his small shows, sitting in the back, book in her lap, and her heart in the front row. He began walking earlier, just to walk for to the bus stop, even when he had nowhere to go. But love, like music, doesn't stay still for too long. Julian's mother's conditions worsened. God, that's a mouthful. The hospital visits became frequent. Lena stayed up with him some nights, quietly holding his hand while he stared at the wall. There were days he didn't speak, days he played music that shook the windows again. And Lena didn't complain, not once. Then came October. Julian's mother passed away on a Thursday, just as the leaves in the neighborhood turned gold and crimson. He didn't cry at first. Lena stood at the door of his room and watched as he placed a single sunflower on the nightstand and whispered, "Play it again." He didn't touch an instrument for 3 weeks after that. It was Lena who left a small notebook on his piano. Inside, one sentence: "The world still needs your sound." He began with slow, quiet chords, simple, hesitant melodies. Then one cold morning, he called her into the living room. "I wrote something," he said, "but it only makes sense if you're a part of it." She sat behind him, her hands trembling just slightly. The piece wasn't just music. It was grief and healing. It was their late-night tea, the dandelion field, the silences they shared. And at the end of it, he looked at her, not like someone afraid of losing more, like someone who knew what it meant to hold on. "I love you," he said softly, reverently, not just in the loud moments, but the quiet ones too. And Lena, who thought love would be too loud for her heart to bear, smiled through quiet tears. "I know," she whispered. "I've heard it in every no." Part 3. Winter Light. 5 years passed. The little house with thin curtains and ivy-covered bricks had changed, though gently. The hedge was taller, the porch was painted navy blue. Inside, Lena's books now lined one wall, and Julian's records the other. They still argued about whose shelf space was larger, always with a smile. Julian taught music now, privately. Lena worked at the local library, running quiet reading hours for children who needed silence as badly as she once did. They were happy, not the loud, cinematic kind of happy, the quiet, steady kind that grew in mornings and stayed through stormy nights. But the gentlest lives face winter. It began with a letter. A music producer Julian had met years ago. He had heard one of his most recent compositions online. He wanted Julian to record a full album in New York. It would mean 6 months away. Lena read the letter 3 times, then again. She folded it carefully and gave it back without a word. "You don't have to say yes," she said. Julian looked at her for a long time. "But I want to." She nodded. They stood by the piano that night, unsure how to hold both the future and each other. Before he left, Julian recorded one last piece. Just piano, soft and slow. He called it Dandelion Winter. Lena played it every night. 6 months later, the snow had begun to thaw when she heard footsteps on the porch. She opened the door. There he stood, hair a little longer, eyes a little brighter, holding a worn duffel bag and a single sunflower. "I didn't just record the album," he said. "I named it after you." She blinked, stunned. "What?" "Lena," he said, "because every melody I wrote out there, I was writing it just to get back to you." He pulled something from his pocket, a ring, simple, silver, and shaped like a tiny dandelion seed. "I don't want to make a noise without you in it," he said. Lena didn't cry. Not then. She just stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "Then stay." Stay and let's make quiet magic together. Hmm. Part 4. Years later, the ivy had climbed higher over the brick house. The piano was a little out of tune, and Nina's hair had streaks of silver. Julian's hands moved a bit slower over the keys, but the music was still there, soft, patient, and full. They had a daughter now. Her name was Mira. She was 6 years old and loud in the most beautiful ways. She loved climbing trees, asking impossible questions, and singing at the top of her lungs, even if she didn't know the words. One spring afternoon, Mira burst through the back holding a handful of dandelions. "Mama, Daddy, look!" Julian looked up from the piano, and Nina set her book down. Mira spun around in the grass, scattering golden petals through the air like confetti. "You said dandelions mean 3 wishes," she beamed, "so I made 3. "Oh?" Nina smiled. "What did you wish for?" Mira held up her fingers. 1. I wish for cake tonight. Julian laughed. Fair. 2. I wish I could fly. That one might take some time, Lena said, brushing a flower from Mira's curls. And 3. Mira paused. I wish that you and Daddy would stay in love forever. Julian's eyes met Lena's across the yard. She was already smiling, quietly as always. I think that one has already come true, he said, lifting Mira into his arm. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the dandelion field behind their home. Music drifted out through the open window, slow and familiar. A melody named for winter, a silence, a girl who once feared sound but found love in it anyways. And as the petals danced on the wind, Lena knew something was certain. Some love stories don't end. They just change their rhythm and keep playing. I think I'll do an hour and then I'm gonna go to bed. Not because I'm tired, but mainly because I hate listening to my own voice, really. And also I hate how my tongue clicks when I speak. And it usually only happens when I'm sleeping. And it's really, really annoying. Anyways, I got some stories to finish. Where the Sky Meets the Lake. Part 1. The Boy Who Stared at the Sky. Fucking bugs. Or flies, whatever. Okay. Isla had lived by the lake her entire life, in a small town where everyone knew everyone and everything stayed the same, except the weather. The sky would change often. Storms would roll in over the hills, like stories looking for someone to tell them. And Isla, who painted sunsets for no one but herself, loved the way the sky never asked for permission to shift. Then came Theo. He arrived on a Tuesday, the first day of summer, wearing a weathered backpack and headphones too big for his head. He wasn't from there. That much was obvious. He didn't speak much, didn't smile easy, and spent most of his time lying on the dock staring straight up at the sky. Looking for something? Isla had asked, her voice catching him off guard. He turned his head just enough to meet her eyes. Not anymore, he said. They didn't speak much that first week, but she noticed him everywhere. In the library, in the corner of the diner, at the edge of the lake in the rain. Always alone, always listening to something only he could hear. One day, she bought him a sketchbook. I thought maybe you wanted to keep this guy with you, she said. He blinked, then took it, gently, like she had handed him something sacred. The next day, he showed her a page, a drawing of her, standing on the dock. Hair blowing sideways, paint on her sleeves. You got the sky behind me, she whispered. Theo smiled. Barely. It was the easy part. Part 2. The space between the clouds. Summer deepened. Theo began speaking more, though never about why he'd come to the lake alone, or why he kept checking his phone like he was waiting for bad news to arrive. Instead, he and Isla had built a world out of wandering. They skipped rocks across the lake at midnight, climbed trees that weren't meant to be climbed, made up constellations. He introduced her to strange music she had never heard. She introduced him to silence that wasn't empty. It felt like magic, like escape. But even magic has an expiration date. It was mid-July when Isla finally asked, Are you running away from something? Theo looked out across the lake. It was unusually still. I was, he said. But now I think I'm running towards something. She didn't press him, not then, but her heart squeezed in a way it hadn't before. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no goodbye, just his sketchbook on the dock, open to a drawing of the two of them sitting side by side. Her looking to the sky, her looking at the water, and him at the sky. A full year had passed. Isla kept painting, though her skies had turned softer, her colors more muted. She still went to the dock, but never at midnight. That belonged to another version of her, one that still lived in a sketchbook under her bed. Then, on the first day of summer, he came back. Same backpack, same headphones, a little taller and a little more tired. She was at the dock, barefoot and alone, when she saw him walking toward her. I'm sorry, he said, before she could speak. My mom got sick, really sick, and I had to go back. Isla didn't speak. She just nodded, then softly, Is she okay? Theo looked out at the lake, eyes shining. She's gone now, but I'm okay. They sat in silence. The sky was purple with streaks of orange, reflected perfectly in the water. Why did you come back? Isla finally asked. Theo turned to her, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Because this is where I had learned to breathe again. Years later, a gallery opened in a nearby city. Small, cozy, filled with paintings of skies and lakes and love in quiet forms. One painting hung at the center of the room. It was simple. A girl and a boy sitting on a wooden dock. One looking up, one looking down. Hands almost touching. In the corner of the room stood Isla and Theo. They were older now, still quiet, still drawn to open skies. He reached for his hand, and she took it without hesitation. Do you think people understand it? She asked, looking at the painting. They don't have to, Theo said. They just have to feel it. Outside, the sky turned gold, and at the edge of the city, past the noise and the traffic and time itself, a lake waited quietly, watching, reflecting, just like always. The postcards you never sent. Title. Part 1. The one with the yellow umbrella. Clara collected postcards. Not stamps, not coins, just postcards. Used ones, blank ones, torn, faded, forgotten in drawers. She kept them in a red shoebox under her bed, and sometimes imagined the people who never sent them. What were they afraid of? What they didn't say? Then came the letter. It arrived on a Tuesday, with no written address, just a typewritten message on the back of a postcard that showed a crooked lighthouse on a rocky cliff. If you find the right one, don't let them drift away. J. Clara stared at it for hours. She didn't know anyone whose name started with a J. Then a week later, another postcard arrived. This one showed a frozen lake under the northern lights. Some silences are made of longing, not absence. By the fifth postcard, she began writing back. Not of real replies, just scribbles in a journal. Who are you? How do you know me? Why does it feel like I'm falling in love? Why does this feel like falling in love? The boy with the map in his pocket. Clara began leaving postcards of her own. One on a library shelf, one at a cafe near the train station, one stuck between the pages of her favorite book at a used bookstore. Each said something small. I dream about cities I've never seen. I'm afraid of being ordinary. Do you think love has coordinates? Then one rainy afternoon, she stood at a line at a tiny corner bakery, her hair soaked despite her yellow umbrella. A boy tapped her shoulder and held out something. A postcard. It was hers, the one she had tucked in a novel. He smiled, soft and unsure. I think this belongs to you. She took it, heart pounding. You found it. I did, he said. I've been following them. You're Jay? He nodded. I never thought you were real, she whispered. I didn't think you'd write back. Can I just say, we're about to hit part 3, right? I just noticed this, but this man is 100% a stalker, right? He's just been stalking this girl, and that's because there's no way, right? There's no way he found these postcards in her novel she read at her cafe or whatever. He's stalking her. This is a stalker, and he just made contact. Part 3. Paper trails and heartbeats. His name was Jamie. He loved maps, old trains, and bad poetry. He traveled for work, never staying in more than one city than a few weeks. Clara showed him a box of postcards. He showed her a notebook filled with coordinates, quotes, and pressed flowers. They'd started leaving postcards together, some for strangers and some for each other. One read, "You make stillness feel feel like motion. Another, I'd stopped running if you'd ask. But people like Jamie don't stay. He was offered a job overseas, one he couldn't turn down. They sat on her apartment floor, surrounded by postcards, unsure how to say goodbye. I don't want to be a story you forget, Clara said. Jamie took a postcard from his pocket, blank except for one line. Some people or places. Then he was gone. Postcards with no stamp. Years passed. Clara opened a small shop called Paper Moon, where people could send letters and find second-hand books. She kept a wall by the register filled with postcards. Some were old, some were hers, some were his. One foggy morning, a little girl wandered in holding a postcard with no stamp. It showed a city Clara didn't recognize. On the back, in familiar handwriting, I followed your coordinates. I'm here. Clara stepped outside, and there he was. Same crooked smile, same gentle eyes. A little older and a little steadier. He held out a postcard, faded, bent at the corners, the one she had written years ago. Do you think love has coordinates? It does now. Okay. That's like almost half an hour of reading. And I read through 3 stories. I'm gonna start doing this for you, my darling, who is probably, maybe, gonna be the only one listening to this, more than likely. So, okay. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record a single story each night. And every night I'll post it to a YouTube channel you have access to. And I'll put it in a playlist. And the videos will probably be privated, or the YouTube channel will. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But I'm gonna post them. So at any time, you can just click on the playlist and you should have at least an hour. Right now you'll have 30 minutes. So you can listen to this on the car ride. Of course, I'll do another one tomorrow. I might record a little bit more than just one story. Depends how I'm feeling. I'm really tired right now, though. So, I love you, darling.